Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stan Houston for the What It Takes Radio Company. And a number of years ago, I did a presentation for a wonderful group called The Intentional Leader. And some people have seen it just recently, and they said we ought to redo it again. So we're going to try and reissue the program. It's called The Intentional Leader, What a Cup of Coffee in a Lexus Has to Do with You. Now, what could that be about?
Welcome back. And you didn't have to come back, did you? But you did. And we're starting over again. By the way, that's okay, because in life, you start over all the time. Life is always about starting over. Even at this stage in my life, I start over all the time. And as I said, in effect, you're always on stage. You're always performing. I'm always ready to answer the question. I get on the airplane, I'm dressed for business. By the way, I always get treated better and get better upgrades. I let the rest of the people dress casual and look like crap in terms of how they dress. But I'm dressed for traveling, and I'm always super nice to the people. And guess what oftentimes happens? Good things happen. I remember one time I actually gave a speech. It was a speech I had to give as an insurance convention, and it was up in Vegas. And so I got in late at night. And of course what happened is I checked in about there, and somebody was giving the gal just a terrible time. Just a terrible time. She walked away, and I said to her, "You handled that beautifully. You are really good at that. They were really terrible to you, but you handled it beautifully." I just wanted you to know I noticed it, and I appreciated it. And by the way, tomorrow when I give a speech, I'm going to actually tell people about what you did tonight. She gave me the key, and I was in the top suite. I'm just going to simply encourage you to remember that maybe that's not a bad principle for life, and just see what that happens. I'm also going to be asking you to continually thinking about how you will say things short, sweet, sharp, and in effect for them. Now, I want you to remember along with that is that everybody has a favorite radio station. And it's not Family Life Radio. You know what everyone's favorite radio station is? WII-FM. What's in it for me? That's their favorite radio station. And I'm just going to simply ask you is, whenever you're in front of people, and you're in a sales or marketing situation, that's what they'd like to know. What's in it for me? And you would be surprised how many of your presentations have nothing to do with what's in it for them. You sell your process, you sell your product, what's in it for me? Just a nice thing to remember. All right? Now, do you have any things you'd particularly want to mess around with now? Now we're being good interactive radio here, okay? See, so we'll take a time out for a few seconds and say, what would you like to have, or what is clear to you now, or what would you like to have clearer to you? Or should you just want to keep continuing on for a while? I'm asking you. Okay, fine. Now I want you to also realize, if you haven't done it already, that almost everything I have done, first of all, you notice I haven't used a PowerPoint. Why? Because I want the power to be here. Don't want it to be there. I'm the presenter. I still remember the time when a wonderful woman at a conference walked straight up to me. Boy, this was a focused woman. She walked up to me, looked me straight in the eye and says, "You don't use PowerPoint, do you?" And I says, no, ma'am, I don't. And she says, "Good for you." Because when you do, you give away your power. And she turned and walked right out. There was a power woman. Don't do that. But I also hope you notice that this entire presentation has been almost all about stories. Now, I'll tell you the reason for that. The master teacher came into the world and he told stories and asked questions. So what do? We preach sermons and give answers. That's right. Or PowerPoints, or presentations. The master teacher came into the world and he told stories. And by the way, it mentions that if he didn't talk in stories, he didn't talk. He spoke in parables. And if not in parable, he did not speak. I wonder what that means. I'll tell you what it means. The only effective means of communication is storytelling. You don't want to hear about Stan Houston, the coaching experience. And so if somebody would say, Stan, what do you do? I'd say, can I tell you a story about my client, Deb? 20 years ago, Deb came to me and said, I need to make $20,000 this year. Would you help me? I said, let's start. Last week, Deb sold her business for $7.5 million. She says that I'm part of the reason for the success, and I'm very grateful. In fact, if you think I'm smart, I should have taken a piece of the business, but I didn't. Now, tell stories. What's the kingdom of God like? And what did Jesus say? Let me tell you a story. The Bible begins with once upon a time. Storytelling is the only effective means of communication. And so I've had a hard time because I've worked with chiropractors and they want to talk about crushing bones and spinal alignments and all of the process. And I say, tell them about people who don't hurt anymore. Okay. So I want you to understand that. Okay? Because this whole presentation now is going to be about a story. Now, we were in bad shape, obviously, and we still may be in bad shape. There's no security. I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow. I could lose everything. That's fine. I mean, as you know, 25 years ago, no house, no car, no job, no broken winning college, okay. And by the way, there's a wonderful custom in many of the African tribes in Eastern. You know how they bury you? They bury you naked. As symbolic. Christians often bury people naked. Why? Came in with nothing. I'm going out with nothing. And I'm now going to be born again in my new life. And I'm going to do what? Just came out. I'm going to come away again. Naked. I don't think I'm going to do that. But I love the idea when you think about it. What an incredible story about Christians in East Africa. Bury me naked. Story. So I'm going to just tell stories, all right? Now, we were in a tough situation. But eventually, things got a little bit better. And I started to make a wish list. Everything I'd like to have. By the way, we're going to talk about that in intentional leadership. Figure out. By the way, one of Jesus' favorite questions was what? Do you know what it was? What do you want? Jesus asked that question a lot. Did you know that? What do you want me to do for you? What do you want? And most Christians don't have a clue. Jesus says, what do you want? When you pray, God oftentimes turns you, oh, bless this, bless this, bless this. You know what? God turns you and says, okay, Kathy, what do you want? Do you know? Most of us don't know what we want. Okay, what do you want? Well, I started to write that down. And since I had gone through where I had literally lived, when I first began my business, I took a car that somebody was so mad in the church that the guy wouldn't take the trade in, so he gave me one of these 1978 old rusty blue Subarus. If any of you know that car. That was the car where you parked 3 blocks away when you made a call on your client, hoping that they wouldn't see your car, and you were praying to God that they wouldn't say, let's go for lunch, let's take your car. I've prayed that. I hope they don't see my car. Yeah, I've been there. Finally, I had a friend, so I wrote down, what would I like? I would like a fine motor car. Like, Wind in the Willows, a fine motor car. That's what I want. I have a friend who I helped become, he loved to buy cars. It was his favorite hobby. So guess what I helped him do? He went into a used car buying service. And he makes his living buying cars for people. So he does. He says, I negotiated, I'll take care of it, all that. He loves buying cars. And now he gets paid for it. He buys cars for people. And he called me up one time and he said, hey, Stan, I'm here in Wausau, Wisconsin, and it's 30 degrees below zero, and the auction is there, and hardly anybody's here, and I can get you a Lexus. And it only costs this much. Wow. So I got a Lexus. It wasn't a new Lexus, but it was a Lexus. I had a fine motor car. Wonderful. Right? Isn't that great? Well, unfortunately, as soon as I got it, my wife took it. That's right. I still got the hat, but she got the Lexus. Right. But that was fine. One day, she came to me and said, Stan, the flicker bulb on the Lexus is out. Flicker bulb. Oh, the turn signal. Oh, turn signal. Well, I said, why don't you, next week I'm busy, I'll go down to Pep Boys or Napa and I'll change the light bulb for you. She says, I don't want the light bulb changed next week. I want it changed now. She said, I'm going to take it to the dealer. I said, don't take it to the dealer. She said, I'm taking it to the dealer to get the light bulb changed. Now, some of you know what's going to happen. Because, by the way, Lexus is not in the car business. But they don't sell cars. They'll tell you that. Karen drives the car in, and the thing spots the driver's license plate, flashes up, and a handsome, nice young man, well-dressed, strides over and looks inside and says, Mrs. Houston, welcome to the Lexus experience, Mrs. Houston. What can I do for you? Oh, the flicker bulb is out. No, we never heard it called that before. You're kind of smart. We'll use that. Is he reading that sign, baby? We can take care of that. By the way, Mrs. Houston, while we're doing that, why don't you go into our waiting room? We have chocolate chip cookies. Oh, that would be nice. And there's Starbucks coffee. And you can help yourself to a copy of the Wall Street Journal or the USA Today. And then as she walks out, he comes up to her and says, Mrs. Houston, would you like me to wash the car for you too? Oh, that would be nice. And that's what happened. And at the end of the 20 minutes, he came out, and the light bulb, which would have cost me $2.98 at Pep Boys, cost her $87.50. She got ripped off. She loved it. She can hardly wait for an oil change. Now, the reason for that is something you have to understand. If you want to be successful, it is not about your product. Your product is a commodity. By the way, one of the reasons I tore up the advertising, if you look at advertising, they are all trying to bring in low price stuff. The only people who use advertising, they're trying to get me into fries by saying that the strawberries are 88 cents this week and they're losing money on them because there's no way they can get those strawberries all the way from California, package them up and put them in the store. But they know that if they actually get me to buy 88-cent strawberries, I will buy something else where they'll make some money. That's why when you advertise, you have just entered the low-price commodity field. Everybody uses advertising to get the cheapest price. By the way, Lexus is not in the cheapest price category. Nor is Nordstrom's. Nor is Starbucks. Now, you can decide to be the cheapest price. And that is a tough game to win at. Because you're competing against Amazon, and you're competing against Walmart, and you're competing against big people who've got lots more money than you do. You want to go from that. You don't want to sell your product. You don't want to sell your service. What you do is you want to sell your experience. Now you see that. By the way, the whole idea of experience, that actually came from something that I and another guy did about 20 years ago. We said, don't sell products. We wrote a book called The Experience Economy. Work is theater and every business. A former student of mine, his name is Joe Pine. You need to read the book, The Experience Economy. Work is theater and every business is stage. And his whole point is this, just exactly this. By the way, is this a seminar? No, this is a show. This is show business. And I'm not trying to teach you what I can do. I'm trying to demonstrate how good I am. Did you see the difference? Now, what happened is, Lexus, what does having a cup of coffee in a Lexus have to do with marketing you and your business? Neither one of them are in the product or service business. See, what happens is you can buy coffee for $2 a pound on the spot market from Costa Rica. Okay, they bake it, put it in a can, put it on fries, and they sell it for $6 a pound. You can go in, even to a nice restaurant here, they'll brew it for you, they'll serve it to you, and they'll clean up after you, and they'll charge you $2.50 for the service. And you walk into Starbucks and they charge you $5. For what? For the experience. And it's a show. By the way, I always ask people, I said, is that your costume? By the way, when you go to work, you all have a costume on. What is it? It's a show. What's your costume? I actually worked with a restaurant one time, and we had fun. We changed our names. We had stage names. By the way, that was actually a safe thing for the young women in the restaurant. They all had stage names. And that was kind of fun. By the way, if you actually view waiting tables as a show, you have a lot more fun doing it. This is the audience, baby. Break a leg. Oh, what does Walt Disney call all of the employees? Cast members. They're all show people. Now, my point to you is, if you want to understand business today, what do you have to figure out what to do? Okay, you've got a product. By the way, I can buy insurance from anybody, right? In fact, I can buy it from nobody. I can buy it from a lizard. Right? Can't I? I can buy it from a lizard. I can buy it from nobody. And you're asking me to buy it from you. Right? Why would I do that? Are you going to be the cheapest? You can't be. You can't be. You'll go out of business. Right? The lizard works for free, and you don't. Your children will be unhappy if you work for free. Right? Now, this is vital. Most of us are out there trying to make a living by selling a product or a service. And by the way, there are thousands of people selling the same product and the same service. And there's one way to get their business. Be the cheapest. Hey, they want $25 for that bin? We'll give it to you for $19. You can do that. You can do that. And then they'll say, by the way, oh, they're doing it for $19. We'll do it for $17. And it's the proverbial race to the bottom. Until finally, somebody goes out of business, and then you can jack the price back up again. No, that's an old business strategy, goes back hundreds of years. That's how Standard Oil made the deal. So, in effect, everything you have, I can buy from somebody else. If any of you would like a business coach, you could buy me. That's right. You could also buy somebody considerably cheaper. But you can't get me, because I'm not cheap. You see my point? No. Now, in effect, everything you have, no matter what it is a product, or if you're really smart, you try and turn your product into a service, because there's more money in the service. Like I said, the coffee shop does a better job because, they bought it for $2 a pound and they sell it for $2 a cup. Great markup. And all they did was brew it and clean up afterwards. Service is far better. So if you can get out of the product business and somehow get into the service business, you're going to make more money. In fact, do you realize that most car dealers don't make any money on the car anymore? They make it on the financing, they make it on the service. That's where the money is. That's why they don't like when you come in and you got cash in your hand. Because then the finance man doesn't get his share. I mean, that's just the way. It's too bad, but that's the way it is. And I have a good friend who actually is a wonderful Christian gentleman, and he has a hard time in the car business. You know why? Because he's honest. It really does. He really does. He will tell people, that's not a good car. I wouldn't sell that to you. And in fact, to show you how tough it can be, I had a good client who was one of the top salesmen in his dealership. Great, wonderful Christian man, gloriously saved out of alcoholism. And he has a wonderful line. He says, if you're an addict, you're never saved out of addiction. You just change the addiction. He says, I'm an addict. He was addicted to exercise and he's addicted to Jesus, but he's an addict. That's his personality. That's who he was. It doesn't change. He's obsessive compulsive, but now he's obsessed. He said, now I'm obsessive compulsive and addicted to good things rather than addicted to bad things. Okay, that's what he is. However, he told me one time is that even though he was the top salesman moving 15 to 20 cars a month, his sales manager came to him and said, Chuck, if you would stop working for the client and stop working for me, we'd make some more money. The guy was so stupid he didn't realize the reason Chuck was such a great salesperson is why? Client. And he didn't even have to work the floor. You know why? They came to him. He said, I don't do the floor. So now what I want you to do is I want you to begin to think, how can I look out, and I want you to now start looking at people who have figured this out. That they have tried to turn their product offering or whatever they're in, they are now trying to work it into an experience. And actually, if you did it well, that means that there was something that actually changed in their life. Now, you know what the easiest way to create an experience? Just tell a good story. The easiest way to create an experience is to tell a story. Everybody loves a story. I've spoken in front of thousands of people. Now, I gave a little introduction here, but usually I just walk in, I've got myself usually in black because that's my deal, you know. It's part of my shtick, you know. And I want the spotlight right to reflect off my bald head. My name is Stan. Let me tell you a story. Got him. Everybody likes a story. We are made for stories. The easiest way to create a good experience is to tell a good story. It's always enjoyable. People love stories. We were made for stories. Even if you were a child and you've heard the same story 7 times, you want to hear it again. Every time I go to church, they tell me the same story. But that's okay, because I need to hear it again. In fact, every 7 sunsets, I need to hear it again. It's a great experience. Worship is not a product. Worship is not a service. Worship is an experience. God did not come so that I could learn about Him. Actually, I got in trouble with a Christian college one time because they wanted me to sign this statement, faith statement. We believe this. I said, the devil could sign that. The devil believes all that stuff. And they looked at, you're right, he does. The problem is not whether I believe, the problem is what have I experienced? What has happened in my life? Not what I believe. What I believe is irrelevant. What have I experienced and what I do is the deal. So, I bring that home to you now. You look at the product that you have. Now, how can I turn product into a service? By the way, I have no love for Thrivent in Minneapolis. I know them. Some of them are nice people, some of them are not. But I'm not buying Thrivent in Minneapolis. I'm buying what? The experience of working with Diana in Tucson, and how can I make that a unique experience? The goal is, if you're representing a company, they don't even know who to make the check out to. Because it's not the company they're thinking about, it's you. So please keep that in mind. By the way, a piece of paper is a dead tree. It's a boring experience. It's got no personality. It's got no energy. Your brochure is dead. It's boring. And so when you hand a person a brochure, you're boring them to death. Because all brochures are boring. They're informational. They're not relational. I don't like them. I tear them up. I give them away. I use them on my demonstrations. So, marketing lesson number 3. What does having a cup of coffee from Starbucks and a Lexus have to do with marketing you? The lesson is, if you want to be successful in business, you don't sell a product, you don't sell a service, you create an awesome, memorable, remarkable, what? Experience. Won't that be a whole lot more fun?
And we thank you for listening to us again. Our blast from the past and just as current as ever. This was Scene 3. Scene 4 is yet to come. Okay, stanhouston@gmail.com. That's the way to reach out to us. And check out our YouTube channel, Reaching Your Audience, How to Be World Class. reaching your audience how to be world class for more of our programs about how we do what we do. And 520-664-7002. Leave a message and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And thank you. Remember, this is brought to you by this What It Takes radio company, helping you reach your audience and perhaps having a touch of immortality.